Hello, and welcome to my forever messy grain room. Wow, I really need to buy some new clothes. Today I wanted to try to touch in to what I feed and horse nutrition. I'm definitely not an expert, but I have spent enough years in the horse world to kind of grasp different things about nutrition that you guys have continued to ask me about what I feed and my grain board and supplements and things like that. So I wanted to try to dive into that a little bit today and have more of a barn chat with you guys while I sit here and talk about this thing. So it's going to be kind of a talking at you vlog. We'll walk around a little bit, but the biggest thing I can harp on if you're not going to listen to this whole vlog is forage-based diet. I do use grain, and I like using grain. My horse needs grain. However, quality forage is really important. If you can, having your hay tested, having high quality hay available 24/7 is really good for your horses. If you have a horse that has the opposite problem and is more of the fat, overweight, easy keeper type, then I still think high quality hay is important. It's just managing the amount that they can ingest. I use a lot of like slow feeder hay nets for that purpose. So, if I can leave you with one point today, horses are forage-based animals that are going to do best having access to forage 24/7. Now, if you live in a place like me, New England, our horses can't get forage 24/7, which is an adjustment coming from Florida because my horses lived on grass and I never really had a problem putting weight on a horse. I could, struggle with top line at times, but I never really had skinny horses, and I feel like that's a little more of a problem up here because the grass paddocks that I have are only grass for a handful of months out of the year, and that's it. And then in the winter time, I'm in a bunch of mud with no grass or snow, and I'm trying to make up for that. Now, for my horse specifically, that means fresh alfalfa. I know that fresh alfalfa is expensive, and it's also not for everyone because some horses get hot on it. Doppler doesn't. He also doesn't eat enough of it. He gets a flake a day. So, but I found that that can supplement a lot of that grass-based need. I also, going off grass-based need, if you have a horse that lives in Florida and is eating grass, you may not have the problem that we have here, which is having a vitamin E deficiency. A lot of our horses have this problem. I've fed a lot of different vitamin E supplements over the years being up north, and so far I found that this Nano E by Kentucky Equine Research is the most bioavailable and seems to really work. So expensive, but highly recommend. Grain wise, I feel like this might be a little all over the place kind of barn talk, but I'm just trying to grasp everything. Grain is one of those things that you can do a million different ways. So the way I do it is not necessarily right, but again, with grain and with actual meals, I try to feed what I would consider a little bit forage based or more natural based. So all of my horses, for the most part, get beet pulp and alfalfa pellets or cubes soaked if they're not getting fresh alfalfa. I think right now, currently, my horse is the only one on fresh alfalfa. Pellets and cubes are just more affordable option. So with that being said, while our horses are getting a certain amount of hay meals a day, they're also getting 2 to 3 grain meals, but I would say a lot of those horses are beet pulp based or alfalfa based. The actual grain that I'm currently liking to feed a lot, and I have been with for a while, is Triple Crown. The thing I've noticed with different grains is that at the end of the day, a lot of grains are good. The more you're willing to pay for a bag of grain is probably the higher fat and nutrient contents that you're going to get, fat, vitamin, supplementation type stuff. So Triple Crown, I actually feed the normal balancer, but the senior we feed gold. Ugh. Triple Crown. So I have found that everything I want my horses to get in a balancer pellet, I like this Triple Crown balancer the best. Balancer pellet is all about getting the protein, vitamins, minerals that they're not necessarily getting from their forage-based diet, which is why a lot of horses that aren't on grass need a balancer. The Senior Gold from Triple Crown is a fortified senior feed, so it has a lot of the balancer vitamins and minerals and protein in it. So a lot of that time you can feed less of that. Anyways, Triple Crown is kind of what I'm on right now for the most part. And every horse varies. So I could show you my actual grain board, but I don't think the grain board itself speaks to more of like looking at a horse and me explaining to you a little bit more of what I think they need. This is heavy. So Doppler, you guys have seen a lot on the vlog, and I feel like I can talk about him more candidly and specifically. And when Doppler came to me, he was grass fat, not fat. He was, I would say, a happy weight on grass, and he was eating a lot of senior grain. I personally try to lean away from feeding a heavy grain diet because grain is not as natural for their gut, so a horse that can be ulcery, like a thoroughbred, I want to steer away from the grain. Not completely, because they need that nutrients, but I want to steer away from feeding a ton of it. So like, for instance, I've had horses come in that look really skinny, and technically, sure, they could get like 8 pounds of senior a day, but I don't really want to do that. So, that's kind of where I feel like the alfalfa comes in for me. It's high protein, and I found that it really helps fatten those horses up. Sidestepping off of Doppler onto Rex a little bit. Rex, who you guys have seen a lot on the vlog as well, if you've followed me up to this point. He's an easy keeper, and I would say I keep his weight very happy for the most part until he's in heavy, heavy work on balancer pellet, alfalfa pellets, and beet pulp. He's on a very low grain diet, so I'm really happy with that. And I think most thoroughbreds that I'm struggling with, the Senior Gold has a super high fat content, and that's kind of why I'm choosing to feed that. We also feed, you might be able to see it, Omega Advantage by Pro Elite, which is more of like a fat supplement. I'm not Pro Elite's biggest fan because I personally started feeding their grain and felt all of my horses on their balancer lost top line. And balancer cannot produce top line, however it helps maintain it because that's the vitamins and the minerals and stuff like that that they need, that a lot of their top line comes from. Yes, top line and top line muscle comes from proper work, but a lot of poor looking top lines can also be because of vitamin deficiencies and issues like that. Anyway, so Doppler is a great example. He has ebbed and flowed, and I've tried a million different things since he's been here. He's been on Buckeye's fat supplements, he's been on our fat supplements, he's been on tons of grain, blah blah blah. He's just kind of a picky eater. I finally found his sweet spot with a beet pulp mixture with the Triple Crown Senior, and he's looking really good on that. And I think the alfalfa has really made the difference for him. Fresh alfalfa is one of those things that if it's not going to make your horse hot, I feel like it's always going to help with their coat weight, etc. It's just a good forage. It is expensive though, and that is the downside. That's why Doppler only gets a flake a day. He doesn't even always eat a flake a day. Sometimes he only eats half the flake. So I would say I milk it with the alfalfa with him. He doesn't like soaked alfalfa pellets, or I'd probably be feeding that option, or cubes. But all the other horses in our barn, almost all of them are on soaked alfalfa pellets or cubes. Supplement wise, I know I've talked a little bit about this before. I feel like you can go crazy with supplements. I have gone crazy with supplements, and now Doppler's on nothing. I will say, if there was a supplement beyond the Nano E that I can really wholeheartedly get behind, it is Hagyard Pharmacy's Reline GI. I felt like that really made a difference while we were getting through some irritation in our gut. I'll probably put him back on that when we're in heavy work, traveling, etc. It's just super expensive. As for supplements, I don't really control any of my border supplements. They kind of ebb and flow all over the place, from none to throw the entire kitchen sink at it. So I don't want to say too much about supplements, just because I feel like you can go either way. I do feel like if I'm going to try a supplement, I only want to try one at a time and see if I can feel like I get a real difference out of it. And to do your research. So a lot of those, for instance, Smart Pack supplements are pretty affordable and they sound super great. And the actual percentages of things in the pellets that they're sending you are so small that they're probably, in my opinion, not making a difference. Again, personal opinion. I'm not trying to call it Smart Pack. I'm just saying supplements in general. A typical horse is like 1,000-pound animal, and like vitamin E, they have to be getting so much of that in order to actually be supplementing that. So, and also, if you want to get really nerdy about it, read about the percentages in your grain. Like, that is what you should be doing the most. I, again, am not a professional nutritionist. I feed Triple Crown. I like Triple Crown. I feed bee pulp and I feed alfalfa. And those are a lot of the main things that I'm doing. But that doesn't make what I'm doing going to be perfect for your horse. There are some great nutrition resources out there. I will put a link in the vlog details. If you want to get super crazy, there is this calculator thing that tells you what the average horse of your horse's weight should be getting percentage wise, and you could like break it down to equal the amount of quarts or pounds of grain that your horse should be getting. That's a great tool. I will be honest, I have not used it yet, but that was recommended to me. Also, I have worked with some nutritionists before, and I think that's a great resource if you have no idea what you're doing and you aren't happy with how your horse looks. Find a reputable nutritionist in your area and try to get them on board to help you, because I think sometimes the nutrition stuff can be overwhelming. Supplements can be overwhelming. The internet is full of ideas and a lot of it's biased, so that's why I don't want to say do this. I found Triple Crown works for me just by trial and error. So I have fed a couple other grains, and I just kind of fell into them. I could try a million other ones. I've heard of people using High Gain, Buckeye. I used Pro Elite before this. I used Legends for a while and really liked their product. They just don't make what I was using the most of before now. So there's so much on the market. The biggest thing I can tell you is, and I still currently, I have clients that feed Purina and they provide their own grain, and I do have a couple Easy Keepers on Nutrina feed. So we still have a variety here, and the biggest thing I can tell you is just try to figure out what you're trying to get out of your grain. Read the percentages, try to at least understand, you know, if your horse is an easy keeper, am I feeding them too much? Balancer. What am I trying to accomplish with grain? Because really, grain is a supplement. Horses are forage-based animals. So for me, I went with Triple Crown Senior Gold because it has a high fat content and I want to feed as little grain as possible. So I pay a premium for the bag to get a higher fat content so I can feed less grain. Not because cost-wise I need to feed less grain, although that's a perk, but because I want my horse to ingest less grain. If you want to feed a cheaper bag with a lower fat content, you might end up feeding more. Just, again, things I've learned along the way. Not by any means an expert. I don't have a ton of horses on supplements right now. Other than I have some horses on gut supplements. That seems to be a common one. And again, just for my personal preference, I have found that Reline GI works the best from Hagyard Pharmacy. I have friends that love it as well. It is quite expensive. I would say comparable product, I'm really embarrassed by the holes in my shirt. I would say the comparable product is probably this, oh gosh, if you can see it, Gut X. It's formulated a little bit differently, same idea as Hagyard Pharmacy, I think, but it's formulated a little bit differently. So if you were trying to find something comparable, this would probably be it. I have my boss and a client that use that instead, just because it's more cost effective. Anyways, I feel like that pretty much wraps up what I wanted to say about grain. If you have specific questions, I'm happy to answer them. My grain board, you can see, has a horse's name, the amounts of grain that they're getting, supplements. If they have a lunch, it comes after that. All these horses are on at least 2 meals a day, if not 3. So yeah, that is pretty much my nutrition feeding thoughts. We obviously have a hay steamer as well, which I try to utilize as much as possible. And I would love to go to school on horse nutrition and be even more of a nerd. But the biggest thing I can recommend is figure out what you're trying to target. Think about what's best for your horse. Work with someone who has good education or do your research. And also, don't be afraid to play around with it a little bit and see what works best for your horse. I really liked the idea behind Buckeye Nutrition. That didn't seem to really work with Doppler's palate. He's a very picky eater. And once we started Triple Crown, he was like, yes, this is it. And I was like, okay, this is how we get this horse fat. But it wasn't until I added fresh alfalfa into his diet that I felt like we really got to the point of weight that I wanted him at, and I was actually able to lower his amounts of grain. So I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover today. I hope that answers some of your questions. I didn't get a lot of very specific questions, but I got a lot of questions asking what is on your grain board, what do you feed, stuff like that, what supplements you use, and I feel like that answers your questions. Also, though, just what works for like Doppler isn't gonna be what works for every horse. I've had a couple horses that have come in not looking great, and I have had to spend a couple months trying to figure out how to make them look better. I have a client horse who came in with a hay belly, but her ribs showing and not much top line. And I kind of had to revamp her whole nutrition thing. And hint, alfalfa has helped there. So I think at the end of the day, try to go as forage-based as possible. Don't focus so much on a grain board. I do feed grain, but I feed as minimal of it as possible. So please comment below with questions you have. I will hopefully do a part 2 of this at some point which will answer questions that are very specific, and maybe show you guys a horse too, so I can explain a little more what I look at, different parts of the horse. If you notice that your horse's top line is lacking, it could be lacking in vitamins and minerals. If their ribs are showing but their top line and bottom looks good, that's probably fat content. If the bottom of their stomach is fat or tucked, you know, there's things you can do to manage that. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. Please, again, if you have specific questions, comment below. I would love to answer them in a follow-up vlog. Don't take everything I say as the Bible. This is just what I've found with trial and error works for me. So, I'll see you guys soon, and hopefully I'll be answering some specific questions in a future vlog. See you soon.